All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about a really powerful and honestly, a pretty counterintuitive idea today. What if your company's biggest growth problem has nothing to do with your budget or your pipeline or even your strategy? What if it's all about clarity? Let's get into it. Just let that one sink in for a minute. This quote, it really gets to the core of why so many amazing, promising companies just get stuck. They think they have a resource issue, not enough money, not enough people. But what they really have is a signal issue. The messages are getting crossed and it's grinding everything to a halt. So yeah, let's talk about that real growth killer. In these high-performance teams we all want to build, confusion is like the silent assassin. And the really tricky part, it often looks like progress. You see calendars packed with meetings, a constant flurry of Slack messages and emails, lots and lots of motion, but absolutely zero momentum. And you can see the two worlds laid out right here. On the left, you've got confusion. That's multiple goals, scrambled signals, painfully slow decisions. You're just burning through cash faster and faster. But on the right, with clarity, you get one shared objective, a clean signal. Fast decisions. That isn't just motion anymore, that's real velocity. And you start to see compounding impact. And this is exactly how that confusion plays out in the real world. You have a team of absolute rock stars, everyone is working their tail off, but the marketing team is chasing awareness, while sales is focused on closing deals. Product is desperate for feedback, and leadership just wants to see traction. See the problem? They all think they're aligned, but they're all pulling in slightly different directions. That's not a talent problem, that's an interference problem. And here's the thing that should keep you up at night. The real cost isn't just the budget you're burning. It's the things you can never, ever buy back. You've got lost time, eroded trust, and the completely drained energy of your best people. No amount of funding can fix that once it's gone. Okay, so enough about the problem, right? Let's switch gears and talk about the solution, using clarity as your ultimate multiplier. And I want to be clear, this is not a soft skill. This is the hidden force that unlocks real speed and scale in a company. I absolutely love this definition. Clarity isn't some nice-to-have mission statement on a poster. It is operational horsepower. It's the engine that lets your team make decisions faster, understand which trade-offs are the right ones to make, and, this is the magic part, work autonomously without everything descending into chaos. So how does that actually happen? How do 10 people move like 100? Well, it's because in a company with real clarity, people stop asking for permission and they start asking for information. They already know the goal so they can move fast and they can move with confidence. You're basically swapping layers of bureaucracy for trust. And that is what unleashes your team. But, and this is a big but, you don't get there with a few motivational posters or one big all-hands meeting. Clarity has to be built, systematically. The source material talks about creating these reinforcing clarity loops that sync up the entire organization. So let's break down this framework. It's got 3 layers, and they all have to work together. First up, you have strategic clarity. That's about defining the actual game you're playing. Then comes operational clarity, measuring the things that actually matter. And finally, executional clarity, getting rid of the ambiguity in the day-to-day work. When all 3 are in sync, the system just starts to work. Let's start at the top. Strategic clarity has to be ruthless. This isn't about getting everyone to agree on everything. It's about getting everyone to agree on the one thing that matters most, right now. It means defining the single game you are trying to win, and, just as important, being crystal clear about the trade-offs you are willing to make to win it. Okay, next up is operational clarity. This is where so many companies just drown in data and dashboards. The rule here is super simple. Every single metric has to have a purpose. The best companies create what are called cascading metrics, where every team's goal links directly up to the company's one single North Star objective. And this quote just nails it. If a metric isn't helping you make a choice, it's just noise, period. See, when you track everything, you often end up trusting nothing. Real clarity comes from the discipline to measure only what actually moves the business forward. And finally, we have executional clarity. This is where the rubber meets the road, and honestly, where alignment usually falls apart, in those gaps between the meetings. This isn't about micromanaging your people. It's about creating so much shared context that everyone knows who owns what, by when, and what done actually looks like. That is what fuels real autonomy. So how in the world do you make all this happen? Well, it all comes down to leadership. Clarity doesn't live in a Google slide deck. It is designed, it is built, and it is protected by the consistent behaviors of a company's leaders, especially when things get tough. The source points to 3 critical disciplines that clear leaders live by. You've got the repetition rule, the question filter, and the permission to simplify. Let's quickly break these down. The repetition rule is so simple, but it gets overlooked all the time. Leaders think they've communicated the strategy because they said it once at a meeting. Nope. The best leaders sound like a broken record because alignment demands it. They create a rhythm constantly reinforcing, hey, here's what we're going, and here's why what you're doing matters. Next up, the question filter. Look, great leaders don't have all the answers, but man, do they ask better questions. Questions just like these. What signal are we really chasing here? They slice right through the noise, and they pull a team back into focus when things start to get fuzzy. At the end of the day, you can't just say you value clarity. It's a behavioral audit. You can see it. You can see it in how your team describes the mission when you're not in a room. You see it in the choices they make when no one's watching. And you see it in how quickly they say no to things that are just distractions. And that brings us right to the ultimate clarity test. Ask yourself this, honestly. If I walked into your company today and asked 10 random people what the #1 priority is, would I get one answer or would I get 10 different answers? The results tells you everything about whether you're scaling clarity or just managing confusion. So let's bring it all home. Growth doesn't slow down because your people get lazy. It slows down because the signal gets muddy. You see, every great strategy, every brilliant playbook, it all depends on one thing: translating that vision into a shared reality that everyone can actually act on. The cleanest signal always wins. And we'll leave you with this last thought to chew on. Before you go looking for a brand new strategy or asking for a bigger budget, maybe ask the harder, more important question first. Because once everyone on your team knows what game they're actually playing, you'd be amazed how the scaling part starts to take care of itself. That's all for this one. See you next time.